Hey there, chaos enthusiasts. I'm Adam Lehrhaupt, author, former art director, roadie, and lifelong chaos enthusiast. Welcome to the first episode of Picture This, where we're going to explore wildly creative ways to teach with picture books. Consider this your safe space for trying new ideas, taking risks, and maybe occasionally getting some glitter in your coffee. Back when I wrote Chicken in Space, I thought it was just going to be a fun book about a chicken who dreamed big. Adventure tale where my main character was going to be a little bit Don Quixote, a little bit Baron Munchausen. But very soon after the book came out, I got an email from a teacher with a photo of her students, and they had strapped egg cartons to their heads and put popsicle sticks on it, and they were spinning the popsicle sticks, and they had all these different head-based flying machines that they had created. And that's when it really hit me. Picture books aren't just stories. They're launch pads for the classroom to explore new ideas. And as an author, this wasn't something that I always considered with my books. A lot of times, authors will throw up a teacher's guide or something online, and it'll have some very simple activities inside of it, a word search, the same old standard fare. But what this educator had done was something unique and different and really cool. And it was something I had never thought of doing with my book. So today, we're going to dive into how picture books can make STEM lessons feel a little bit less like textbook work and more like going on an adventure. I mean, really, when you think about STEM, that's what it should be. It should be going on adventures. It should be creating new things, different things, stuff that never existed before. So let's get right into ideas for building spaghetti bricks, or maybe designing waffle-powered rocket ships. Syrup would be a really good thing to power a rocket ship with. Because then, maybe you can just eat the leftovers. I'm a big fan of different kinds of syrup, so we'll talk about that later. Right now, we're going to get into some of the ideas around why picture books are great for these types of projects. Why STEM? Well, picture books have a unique kind of presence in literature. They take complex components, concepts that are sometimes outside the purview of a young child, and they make them simple, right? So it's simple visuals, emotions, but on a relatable scale. And they create these kind of scenarios that are very, very memorable, but approachable at the same time. They also model curiosity, creativity, and problem solving in how the characters react to situations. So when you look at how Zoe in Chicken in Space creates the idea of a ship, she doesn't even think about it. She goes, balloons can lift, the basket can hold things, we have a spaceship. And for her, it doesn't matter whether that can be a real spaceship, because she'll let her imagination take her the rest of the way. And that curiosity, that creativity cuts down the barriers. It cuts right through things that students are going to put in their own way, and that we as authors or educators or parents can help them overcome. And best of all, picture books show kids that failure isn't the end of the story. Pretty much every picture book I write has some kind of failure in it. Chicken in Space, Zoe doesn't actually go to space. They don't actually meet aliens. So it's true, but it's not true at the same time. And when you can show readers that failure is part of the process, and it's the middle of the process, and that through failure we can learn things, we can get to the next steps. That's really the journey towards having, a chin in STEM, right? You're not just going to step out and create something wonderful without breaking a few eggs, as they say. Sorry, Zoe. Sorry, Zoe's over here. I don't know if you know, but Zoe's always to my right. I don't know why. That's where chickens come from. I don't know. So let's get into a little bit about that particular book. When I hear back from educators about this book, they use it for things like engineering, design thinking, like, creating a hat that can help you fly. So when you are thinking about an activity that goes with that kind of exercise, your engineering designs don't have to actually work, right? We're not actually NASA. We're not the National Science Museum, which thank you to the Science and Aeronautical Museum because they read Chicken in Space all the time. Your flying machine just has to feel like it would work. Right? It's about imagination. So they can use recycled materials. They can put all kinds of things together to create this concept, right? Which will work really well for younger ages. As you get to some older ages, maybe you are going to try to create a machine that does fly. Right? And then you can have all kinds of science and math things that you do with it. You can test for distance. You can test for airtime. You can test crashworthiness. Right? Helmet optional. I remember an exercise I did when I was in school where we had to create this thing. You put an egg in it and you dropped it and you hoped that the egg didn't break, right? Can you create a flying machine that doesn't break when you fly it? Or maybe one that breaks the back. Sometimes it's not about doing things the way that you think they should be done. Sometimes it's about doing it counterintuitively. How can we make it more fun? How can we make it more inclusive? So the next book I wanted to talk about is The Floating Field, How a Group of Thai Boys Built Their Own Soccer Field, and this one's by Scott Riley. This is a really cool, wonderful story, and it's problem solving, it's teamwork, it's real world engineering that you can point to and say it worked. And you can see videos, you can see this soccer field, the real soccer field, and you can bring that back into the classroom and say, this is a group of kids that did this, right? This is a not NASA engineers. This is something that you can do, and you can look at this story and get a germ of engineering out of it. You can get a germ of how to recycle scraps. You can get a germ of how sheer will helps you get things done. When you think about designing things like that and bringing it into your classroom, how about can you create something that can be used in a tough environment, right? Maybe it's a reading nook, but it has to be able to float on the ocean. Or, we have a book cart, right, that we're taking around the classroom. What if the terrain in the classroom was really rocky? How could we build a book cart that we could roll over that terrain and not have it topple and fall apart? Or maybe a floating book cart, maybe a flying book cart. So you can come up with a lot of different activities about thinking about how you can make something usable, something that you would use every day, and how would you create that for a very, very difficult environment, whether it's icy or rocky or watery or anything. Make something up. How would you do it on the moon? Right? We're being creative, so let's go as far as we can. The third book I want to talk about is by Vicky Fang. It's called Invent a Pet. And this is a really cool book because it's about tinkering, it's about trying things, it's a little bit of cause and effect, it's iteration. How do we do it? How do we make it better? What are things that we left out? When the main character makes this pet making machine, she learns that inputs and outputs really do matter, right? So it brings us coding logic, it brings us programming, it brings us all kinds of STEM ideas that you can bring into the classroom, right? So maybe for this one, we're building a bot, right? What will it do? How does it work? Once you get it built, maybe it's pass it on to somebody else. How can you improve this bot and make it unique and different and add functionality to it that the originator of it didn't think about? Right? I always love when I get feedback on a story, whether it's from my agent or a friend or a family member wow, they can be brutal. Or an editor where that helps me push what I'm doing forward in a unique and different way and add to it. And as a matter of fact, I was working on a story today and my editor asked me to change a whole big middle part of the story and take it in a different direction. And it just made it better, right? So I think activities for Invent-A-Pet could really be fun along those kind of lines. And then the last book I want to talk about today is The Most Magnificent Thing. And this one's by Ashley Spires. And this is also a little bit of trial and error. It helps with that growth mindset. And it really is a step-by-step walkthrough of every STEM prototype ever made. And with this one, it's baked in, right? Invent a magnificent thing. Right? What can you invent that will solve a real life problem? And you can do a search for real life problems. You can search online. You can do one that's related to you, and then you can put them all together and display them in a gallery. Right? So when I think about these, how to relate these books, I'm really trying to think about the what if. Right? And STEM starts with what if, right? When you're thinking about putting something together, what if I could do this? What if this existed? What if this didn't exist? And trying to solve for those problems and create solutions. And having a maker space to do those kind of things when you're doing STEM is really something that I've found to be useful with my kids, and thinking about what could be there, what are the things that you need and that you don't need, and thinking about connecting them. And every day you spend a little bit of time in that makerspace doing something. So I've had a lot of fun with that, and that was always picture book based, right? So find a picture book, connect to it, and think about what can you create based on this, or thinking about this, what opportunities does it open up for you to think about things different. We're taking a quick break today for our advertisement. Today's episode is brought to you by The Supply Closet. You know the one. Half a glue stick, 2 pipe cleaners, and something you're pretty sure used to be a whole popsicle. Turn that mystery mess into a STEM masterpiece. Need help? Grab your free lesson plans and activity templates at Adam Lehrhaupt in the Picture This section. Craft responsibly. All right, and now we get to my Adam's book bag. Today's featured book is How to Build a Hug, and Temple Grandin and Her Amazing Squeeze Machine. This is by Amy Guglielmo. Wow. I thought my name was hard. Sorry, Amy, for getting that completely wrong, which I'm sure I did. Jacqueline Tourville. This one blends biography with invention. Temple Grandin's story really introduces neurodiversity, which is a concrete real-world problem, and engineering in a simple kind of situation, right? And it leads us to a place where we can think about what is a tangible real-world problem, social, emotional, thing that we can try to solve for by creating something, right? So creating a machine that can solve that problem of you need a hug is really genius. And this is a great explanation of how that happened and what you can do with it. And it's a great jumping off point. And students can brainstorm their own machines. Maybe they know somebody who needs comfort or assistance or inspiration, right? What would your inspiration engine look like? So here's my challenge, the book bag challenge for today. Try one of these activities in your classroom and post about it. Tag me at Lehrhaupt on Instagram, or go to any of my social medias, or shoot me an email and give me a hashtag, Picture This Podcast. I really want to see your students' floating fields and magnificent things. So to recap today, we're talking about how picture books can simplify these complex ideas and be a jumping off point to spark curiosity in your students. And STEM isn't about getting it right. Definitely not on the first try. It's about trying and failing and reimagining and revising and creating something in steps and in a progression. We don't just do the assignment and then it's done. We create it, and then maybe throughout the school year you go back to it and revise it over and over again to get it to be something different each time and better each time, and hopefully laughing a little bit along the way. So you've got some stories. There's going to be activities in the link on my website. Everything I've talked about, I'll give you a little step-by-step of how I would do it. Of course, I don't know everything. I'm really just trying to give you some spark, some impetus to get your creative juices going and get you to think about picture books in a different way and find ways to get them to help you more in your classroom setting. So make sure you grab your free STEM resource pack. It's got some lesson plan ideas, it's got some activity templates, and it's got the book list from today's episode. You can find all of that at adamlehrhaupt.com, or if that's too long for you, adaml.rocks has a link list to all of my stuff, and you just click on the picture this section and it will take you right to it. So if this episode sparked something for you, gave you ideas, got you interested in thinking about picture books differently, make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your favorite educator friends, because teaching with picture books isn't just a smart thing to do, it's a magnificent thing to do.